I started working the night shift on a cruise. I found a horrifying list of rules. I started working the night shift on a cruise ship, thinking it would be an easy job with some perks, since I could never afford a cruise myself. The day I got hired, a man named Jacob took me aboard and showed me around. He gave me a room and told me to start work at 9:30 p.m. when the ship was about 6 miles out. Then I found a strange note slipped inside the manual with rules written in red. Dear Night Guard, welcome. Lights out for passengers is at 10 p.m. Start your shift at 9:30. At 9:45, head to the West Hall and take the flashlight from your desk. If hall lights go out, don't move until emergency lights come on. At the pool, fold chairs. If a boy calls you, look for him at the top of the slide. If he slides down, run to the locker room and hide until you hear a splash. Close all lockers. If locker 500 is open, hold it closed for 10 seconds, no matter what you hear inside. In the restroom, wipe blood without looking. If you see a man in a hoodie in the mirror, don't look at his face. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but when I radioed Jacob about it, he hissed. That's what the last guard thought. Now he's at the bottom of the ocean. I decided to follow the rules. Walking down the hall, I saw an old lady wheeling a suitcase. When I offered help, she stopped, glared, and laughed demonically as she turned away. Suddenly, the lights went out. I switched on my flashlight too soon and froze. An 8-foot-tall, eyeless, huge-mouthed creature loomed before me. I ran to the pool and shut the door behind me. While folding chairs, a boy appeared at the top of the slide. Is this slide open? He asked. I said no, and suddenly he slid down with a horrifying scream. I bolted to the locker room and hid. After a splash, I checked the lockers. None were open. Then, in the restroom, I saw blood on the sink and a hooded figure in the mirror. I avoided eye contact and left fast. Back in the locker room, locker 500 was open. I shut it, but it popped open again, and a dead-looking figure fell out. Don't make eye contact, it warned. I looked and saw my own face. Terrified, I ran back to my office. The next morning, Jacob greeted me with a smile and told me to enjoy the day before resuming work at 9 p.m. I spoke to passengers and crew. Everyone smiled, big, painful grins like chimps showing teeth. I spotted the old lady from last night walking into the kitchen. Later, I saw her head on a chopping board. I spit out my food and ran away. Back in my office, I found a second set of rules for the night. 5. Sweep the deck. If a janitor is in the closet, close the door immediately. 6. Keep eye contact with a lady pushing a cleaning cart and walk past. 7. While sweeping, ignore taps on your shoulder. 8. At the DJ booth, if music plays, shut it off. If static, break the speakers within 5 seconds. 9. Change the spotlight bulb. Break it if it flashes. 10. At the stern, if you see someone in the water, don't throw a life raft. If you hear howling, run and don't look back. At 9:06, I started the tasks. No janitor in the closet, but I heard wheels squealing. The lady with the cleaning cart appeared. I kept eye contact, but looked down by accident. She charged, twisted unnaturally. I swung my broom and cracked her head. I ran to sweep the deck. Passing the DJ booth, nothing happened. At the spotlight, no new bulb. Suddenly it flashed, so I broke it. Static blasted from speakers. I smashed them too. At the stern, I saw a baby crying in the water. I fought the urge to throw a raft. Then howling started. The baby stopped screaming and was swallowed by the monstrous creature from before. It grew to 12 feet tall, smiled, and chased me. I ran down the hall, hearing demonic laughter. I locked myself in my office and checked the cameras. The creature was coming for me. I don't know how much longer I'll last. It's now 4:37 a.m. There are things outside my door waiting. I am trapped on a cruise ship that won't allow its passengers to disembark or die. I never should have opened that envelope. It said I'd won an all-expenses-paid voyage aboard a luxury ship named Charon. I didn't remember entering any contest, but after weeks of depression, I clutched the ticket like a lifeline and showed up at the pier, the only passenger on the gangway. A bored sailor waved me aboard without looking at the ticket. The polished deck gleamed beneath a cloudless sky. I was still marveling at my luck when a man with blood-red eyes lunged into my face and barked, "What's up?" like a relic from a 90s beer commercial. His grin was too wide. I backed against the rail. Without another word, he sauntered away, cackling. Seconds later, the horn boomed and the Charon glided from the dock. No safety drill, no cheerful announcements, and unsettlingly, no other passengers in sight. I found my cabin, changed, and went exploring. Echoing corridors felt deserted until distant chatter led me to a chandeliered ballroom packed with people in clothes from every decade. Flapper dresses beside disco polyester, cruisewear from the 80s, yet every face bore the same glassy, manic stare. Whenever I tried to speak, they shushed me and turned their backs. Only one person engaged me, an elegant old woman using a paring knife to clean her nails. She asked how long I'd been aboard, then sighed when I said, "Today," explaining she'd been here since 1945. Her seriousness chilled me. I laughed nervously, and the knife flashed. She seized my hand and sliced off 2 fingers in one swift motion. While I screamed, she popped them into her mouth and chewed as if tasting fruit. Dozens of heads turned, tongues sliding over cracked lips. I tore out of the ballroom, slammed the doors, and threw my weight against them while clawing hands thudded from inside. Blood soaked the rag I wrapped around my mangled hand. In a silent corridor, 2 children skipped past me. Their skin hung in ribbons, bones shining through, yet they giggled like it was recess. I found a fire axe for defense and hunted for crew, but there were none. Instead, I encountered more passengers who lurched after me, impervious to wounds. One kept walking with the axe lodged in his skull, arms reaching. In an upscale cabin, I discovered a skeleton stretched on the bed, every scrap of flesh rotted away. I reached for a blanket to cover it, and the skull turned toward me, jaw clacking. "Please kill me." I fled, sanity fraying. On the 3rd morning, we docked at an eerily empty port. I ran for the gangway, my heart soaring freedom. The instant my foot touched the ramp, reality inverted. Planks dissolved into a bottomless black gulf teeming with decaying bodies. Skeletal hands latched onto my ankle, tugging me downward to join them. I kicked until one wrist snapped off, scrambled back onto the deck, and the vision vanished. The ramp looked ordinary again as a smiling family rolled their suitcases aboard. I opened my mouth to warn them, but the words dried up. That night, I spotted the finger-eating woman crouched over something with another passenger. When they left, curiosity overpowered terror. The flayed children lay face down, skulls smashed, gray matter missing. As I gagged, they sprang up, beamed at me through shredded faces, and scampered off down the hall. Impossible things happened hourly now. Undead guests shrugging off crushed bones, corpses begging for mercy, the ship itself groaning like a living thing. The next day, I found the severed head of the little girl from the gangway stop. It blinked and asked me to help find her parents. Sobbing, I lifted her gently and dropped her overboard, praying the sharks swirling in our wake, still real enough to kill, would grant her peace. Blood tinted the water and I wept against the rail, wondering if the "what's up" man had chosen the only true exit. Nights stretch like centuries. The ballroom crowd whispers behind closed doors. Knives glint when I pass. The dead children laugh in the passages. The skeleton in the luxury suite beseeches me whenever I dare approach. No one disembarks. No one truly dies. The Charon steams through empty seas, docking only long enough to lure fresh souls aboard. I pace the deck, clinging to a useless emergency whistle and weighing my final choice. When the rail feels steady beneath my palms and the water's pull drowns out the voices, I think I'll leap and trust the sharks to do what this vessel never will. Let me go. I was a stowaway on a cruise ship. The passengers only came out of their cabins at night. I was on the run. I won't say why, it'd only make things worse. Let's just say I had to disappear fast. Sleeping rough down by the docks wasn't the worst thing in the world. I had a sleeping bag and a spot under a forgotten bike shelter. Some spare change, some warm nights. It worked, until a patrol car started taking too much interest. Time to move on. I rounded a corner and saw a cruise ship. Not gleaming, modern luxury, but old, rusting, tired. Faded bunting dangled from the railings like forgotten party streamers. The walkway up to it was open. No guards, no crew, just there. I went with the flow like I always did. Once aboard, I found a lifeboat with a loose cover and slipped inside. Just in time, too. I heard boots, shouting, crates being dragged on board. I lay silent, the ship groaning beneath me as it set off. Later, needing to piss, I crept out. The deck was empty. I kept low and quiet, then climbed back in to rest. Hours passed. At some point, I dozed off. When I next emerged, the sky was fading into dusk. Still, I saw no crew, no passengers. The cabin doors along the deck were all shut tight, their windows shuttered. It didn't feel like a cruise ship anymore. It felt abandoned. We docked somewhere, God knows where, and more crates came aboard. These ones rattled. I figured they were livestock. The boxes had air holes. Once it was quiet again, I went searching. Found a storeroom with tins of meat and a crate of warm beer. Jackpot. I grabbed a few things and hurried back. Belly full, nerves slightly eased, I started to relax. Then the cries began. At first I thought it was the ship creaking, but the sounds were wrong, too human, too desperate. Something was suffering down there. My stomach churned. I staggered out, leaned over the railing, and threw up. Then night truly fell. Click. A cabin door opened. I ducked beneath the prow of the lifeboat, heart racing. A man stepped onto the deck, tall, in a long black coat, walking with a silver-handled cane. He moved smoothly, deliberately. His skin looked pale under the moonlight, his head shaved with strange tattoos curling up one side of his face. More doors opened, more figures emerged, all dressed in black, all shaven-headed, covered in facial markings. They moved in silence, gliding across the deck with eerie calm. Male, female, hard to say. Their expressions were blank, unnerving. Then came the drinks. Two crewmen in white uniforms carried trays with slender, elegant glasses filled with a dark, syrupy liquid. The passengers accepted them greedily. I watched in horrified fascination as they gulped it down and licked the glasses clean with long, thin tongues. Their mouths turned red. One of them smiled. I saw the teeth, sharp, predatory. I squeezed my eyes shut, shaking in the dark like a child hiding from a nightmare, and it worked. When I opened them again, dawn had come. The deck was empty, silent. Then the crew returned. They carried tarped bundles to the edge of the ship, 10 in total, and tossed them into the ocean. I saw one slip open just enough. A pale human hand flopped out before sinking beneath the waves. They weren't transporting livestock. I stayed hidden all day, paralyzed by what I'd seen. Vampires, or something close enough. The ship wasn't a cruise. It was a floating feeding ground, and I was next. When we docked again, I didn't wait. I climbed over the railing and threw myself into the sea. Somehow, I lived. Now I sit on a quiet beach, drink in hand, sun on my face. But I know what waits when the sun goes down. I've seen the darkness that sails quietly between ports, feeding in silence. And I know I was never supposed to make it off that ship alive. Bottom of form.